This is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite and Harry Reasoner in New York. And Eric Seberide at the Kennedy Space Center, Roger Mudd in Washington, and David Dick in Washington.
Good evening. That's Apollo 11 out there, all alone. The enormous mobile service structure rolled away this morning, leaving only the rocket and its slender umbilical tower. Right now, we're in a built-in hold, but the countdown remains somewhat ahead of schedule for a launch to the moon at 9:32 a.m. tomorrow. Astronauts Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins spent the day doing nothing in particular. Mrs. Armstrong arrived to see the launch. The other two astronauts' wives will watch on television. The weather will be good enough for launch, they say, but with scattered clouds, perhaps not too good for spectators. Leading the VIP contingent here, one of the men most responsible for the political decision that is sending men to land on the moon. Lyndon Johnson, here at the invitation of his successor, and saying very little as he arrived to a friendly reception. Large numbers of rank-and-file Americans are here, too. Some of them already pitching tents and parking campers as they stake claims to the best viewing areas for tomorrow's historic launch. But crowds still appear far below NASA's earlier estimate of 1 million. Local officials who are careful to point out that they never issued any forecasts are now talking in terms of 300,000 visitors. That would still be the largest number ever to see a launch. Local merchants feel that visitors may simply have been frightened off by those enthusiastic early estimates. And hotel owners around the Space Center, so with some of them with rooms still available, are not especially happy with NASA tonight. Among those who did arrive, the Poor People's Campaign. A small group of protesting blacks from 5 states brought into the Space Center area to highlight their contention that while billions are spent on the race to the moon, not enough is allocated for the poor and hungry of this planet and this nation. At the visitor's entrance, in the shadow of Model M, a brief demonstration. Dr. Ralph Abernathy, organizer of the Poor People's Campaign, offered some words of prayer and protest.
On the eve of one of man's noblest ventures, I am profoundly moved by our nation's scientific achievements in space and by the heroism of the 3 men who are embarking for the moon. I pray that the astronauts will have a safe flight and a safe return to this earth. We are here to protest and we are here to demonstrate. We are here to say that what we can do for space and exploration, we must do, and we demand that we do the very same for starving poor people.
Space Administrator Thomas Paine immediately granted Dr. Abernathy's request that several of the poor families be admitted to the VIP viewing area for tomorrow's launch. Dr. Paine told the Negro leader that if, by not sending Apollo 11 to the moon, he could wipe out poverty in America, he would not push the button tomorrow. But the button will be pushed. CBS News will present an hour-long preview of the flight of Apollo 11 at 10 o'clock tonight, Eastern Daylight Time. Live coverage of the launch begins at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Harry?
There's still no new word from the Soviets on their Luna 15, but Sir Bernard Lovell of the Jodrell Bank Observatory in Britain said today it's on a much slower course than earlier Soviet shots to the moon. He said this could well mean an effort to scoop up a moon sample after all. Other scientists speculated that Luna is moving slowly so it can make a soft landing on the moon and to save fuel for liftoff back to Earth. President Nixon spoke with the Apollo 11 astronauts by telephone tonight to wish them well in what he called this greatest adventure that man has ever taken. As you lift off to the moon, the president added, you lift the spirits of the American people and the world. Speaking for the 3 astronauts, Neil Armstrong said they are encouraged by all the good wishes they have received and are looking forward to the liftoff. Eric Severide, like the rest of us, is an avid Apollo watcher. Here are his thoughts on the eve of liftoff. Eric?
The modern sciences of rocketry, radar, and computerization came together in remarkable coincidence to make Apollo 11 possible. But the feat is wholly human, all flesh and blood. Every gadget represents a thought and a hand. There is no such thing as a technical success or failure, only human. It is the three men who fly tomorrow who are mysterious, not their equipment. The three are almost exactly the same age, height, and weight. They vary in aspects of temperament, but there, too, they share a common denominator. They are a hybrid species. All three are symbolic of the organization man, the cooperator. But each remains in his core a loner, inner-directed, as were Lindbergh and John Glenn, individualists who will function as cogs in a vast human machine. Lindbergh, Glenn, now in all probability Armstrong, these three will stand as the supreme American heroes of the age. All three happen to have been boys in small Midwestern towns. Perhaps there is something in the mystique, the folk image of the small American town and its formative influences. They had security, they had leisure to prowl and to dream, innocence existed. Sophisticated tensions did not press upon them. Intellectuals of literary bent seem disappointed that their speech does not match the eloquence of their feat. But it is the silent artists like Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, the men who see beauty in the machinery and its functions, who do the thing. Artists they are, because they are perfectionists seeking the outer limits of their strength and their talents. Were they men of words, were their minds occupied with poetic imagery or philosophical abstractions, as they fly, they would surely fail. They are the men of Apollo 11 by the luck of the draw, but Armstrong will put the first foot down upon the moon by somebody's deliberate decision. And it is a logical suspicion that he is the chosen one, not only by reason of his undoubted competence and civilian status, but also by reason of his personality and appearance. If the mission succeeds, this man will become the symbolic American to the world. He fits the stereotype, the folk image of the all-American boy, the kid next door. He has all his hair, he has frank blue eyes, his smile is a slightly shy half grin. And he has the inner strength to bear his country's pride to the rest of the world. Strength he will need, not only for his country, but for himself and for his family. His life and theirs will never be the same again. This is Eric Severide at the Kennedy Space Center.